But Elion seems to be treating them as something much more structural, like imagine standing over a 12-foot putt. The stadium around you is just dead silent.
Yeah, that's heavy pressure.
Right. And I mean, if the ball drops, you win $1.5 million in major championship. But if you miss, well, you go home with a fraction of that. And, the knowledge that you basically choked on global television.
Which is a terrifying thought for anyone.
Exactly. So in those agonizing 3 seconds before you actually swing the putter, what is actually going through your head? Like, are you thinking about the micro angle of your wrist?
Probably not.
No, right? Or are you maybe secretly battling a deeply ingrained 30-year-old fear of disappointing your father? Today, we're doing a deep dive into a pretty radical idea. We're looking at the concept that the biggest obstacle to your success isn't your technique, it's not your intelligence, and it's definitely not your work ethic. It's your unresolved history.
Yeah, and we are pulling today from an excerpt of The Blueprint for Peak Performance Mastery. Specifically, we're focusing on Julie Elion's groundbreaking work called Mastering Your Mental Game.
Which is just a fascinating read.
Oh, it really is. I mean, Elion has spent over 25 years as a performance coach for elite top 1% performers. We're talking PGA Tour champions and Fortune 500 executives.
You're absolutely top tier.
Right. Her data set is incredibly unique because she's analyzing human behavior under literally the absolute highest stakes imaginable. And what the data clearly shows is that at those highest levels, peak performance is fundamentally not about physical ability. It's not about raw intellectual horsepower either.
So what is it?
The differentiator is almost entirely mental and emotional well-being.
Okay, let's unpack this because, we usually treat success like a video game, right?
Like a cheat code.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We assume that if we just grind enough, if we memorize the exact sequence of buttons, the winning techniques, the perfect opening hook for a sales pitch, or the absolute flawless mechanical golf swing, we just win the game.
Which is a very common misconception.
Right, but Elion is arguing that we're completely obsessed with the buttons on the controller when the actual variable deciding the outcome is, well, the person actually holding the controller.
That's a great way to put it.
So our mission today is taking the exact mental strategies used by these world-class performers and translating them into actionable insights for you, the listener. Because whether you're stepping into a massive boardroom presentation or prepping for a difficult negotiation or really just trying to optimize your own daily life, the mechanism of performance is basically identical.
It is, and it requires a massive shift toward holistic self-awareness. Elion's central argument is that you simply cannot create consistent excellence if you don't take a deep, unflinching look at your own habits.
The messy stuff.
Exactly. The messy stuff, your beliefs, your emotions, your relationships, and especially your personal history. The entire goal is to identify the hidden mental obstacles, these invisible saboteurs, so you can create healthier patterns that actually hold up when the pressure spikes.
Okay, I hear you, but I'm struggling to connect the dots here. Let's look at this practically.
Sure.
Say I'm a CEO. If my company's revenue is down 20%, my board of directors absolutely does not care about my relationship with my mother.
No, they definitely don't.
Right. They care about the balance sheet. Or if I'm an elite PGA golfer trying to win a major, the scorecard doesn't care about my childhood anxieties. Shouldn't I just be, crunching numbers or practicing my swing? How does analyzing my past actually fix a Q3 revenue slump?
What's fascinating here is that it seems entirely disconnected until you look at the actual mechanism of pressure. Let's take your exact scenario of the CEO facing a 20% revenue drop.
Okay.
That CEO might have a deeply unexamined belief, rooted entirely in their personal history, that their core worth as a human is tied to being the smartest person in the room.
Oh, well, yeah, that's common.
Extremely common. So in practice, when the pressure is low, they're a visionary leader, everything's fine. But now they're sitting in front of a hostile board. The stakes are immense.
The pressure's on.
Right, and that underlying belief is triggered. Their brain is no longer just processing the Q3 financial data, it's literally processing a deeply ingrained biological fear of losing status and respect.
Wait, so they aren't actually reacting to the spreadsheet anymore?
Exactly. They're reacting to an internal threat. Suddenly, they get defensive when a board member questions a basic metric.
Oh, I've seen that happen.
We all have. They dismiss vital data because accepting it would mean, admitting they were wrong. They alienate their executive team. They make a rigid defensive decision instead of an agile, data-driven one.
Just to protect their ego.
Yes. And if that CEO hasn't done the deep dive into their own history to understand where that rigid need for validation comes from, it will hijack their decision-making process every single time the heat gets turned up.
So it's not passive.
Not at all. Unexamined emotional baggage doesn't just sit there in a box. It actively takes up cognitive bandwidth.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if 30% of your brain is secretly fighting a battle with a childhood fear of failure, you only have 70% of your cognitive bandwidth left to actually analyze the revenue slump or hit the golf ball.
Precisely. You're operating at a deficit.
Okay, so we've identified that these hidden saboteurs exist and that they're rooted in our history, but recognizing that a problem exists doesn't magically fix it. What does this actually look like in the moment? When we look inward, what specific forces are we trying to identify?
Well, the text explicitly focuses on negative thought patterns, fear of failure, and self-doubt. But the real key is understanding how these forces degrade your performance neurologically.
Like physically changing your brain state.
Yes, fear and self-doubt trigger a very real physiological response.
Right.
They pull your consciousness entirely out of the present moment. If you're a leader making a critical decision, but your mind is suddenly flooded with self-doubt, you're no longer analyzing the tangible reality right in front of you.
There you go.
Your brain has projected you into a hypothetical future where you've already failed. And your body is reacting to that failure as if it is happening right now in the room.
That's wild.
You're physically reacting to a threat that literally does not exist.
It sounds like these negative thought patterns are like hidden background apps running on your phone.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right, because you look at the screen and it doesn't look like they're doing much, but they are constantly refreshing, constantly pulling data, and completely draining your battery.
And you don't even realize it until it's too late.
Exactly. Then, right when you need to make a critical call or open an important document, you go to hit the button and the phone just lags. The system freezes because there's simply no processing power left.
The battery drain is very real. And handling pressure isn't about ignoring those background apps. It's not about, gritting your teeth and pretending they don't exist.
Toxic positivity style.
Right, that doesn't work. It's about actively opening the mental task manager, seeing that fear of failure is running in the background and burning 20% of your battery, and consciously force closing it so it doesn't hijack your operating system when you need to execute.
Okay, but recognizing the battery is low doesn't charge the phone. I mean, if I'm listening to this and realizing, okay, yeah, I have a massive fear of failure running in the background right now, and it's draining my bandwidth, what is the actual plugin? How do these elite performers force quit those apps in real time?
This is where Elion introduces the practical toolkit. It's about tactical mindfulness and the architectural use of routines.
Tactical mindfulness.
Yes. The objective is to replace limiting beliefs with productive, heavily reinforced thought patterns.
So what does this all mean? Because we know mindfulness works in a controlled environment. You sit quietly, you breathe. But I want to know about the tactical application here. When an executive's heart rate hits 120 beats per minute during a hostile negotiation.
Or a golfer has a gallery of 10,000 people staring at them.
Exactly. Under that kind of fire, what is the exact mechanism they use to snap their prefrontal cortex back online?
In Elion's framework, mindfulness is stripped of all those usual passive connotations. It's an aggressive, tactical tool.
Aggressive mindfulness, I like that.
It is the highly trained ability to notice the exact millisecond your attention drifts toward that fear of failure, drifting away from the data in front of you and into that disastrous hypothetical future,
Right.
and then violently snapping it back to the precise physical execution of the task at hand. You are anchoring your brain to the present sensory environment so it cannot wander off and trigger a stress response.
And the routines are the mechanism for that anchor, right? The text talks about building strong routines, but we normally think of routines as just like mundane habits, drinking a glass of water at 7 a.m.
Right, brushing your teeth.
Yeah, but Elion seems to be treating them as something much more structural, like cognitive guardrails.
Cognitive guardrails is a highly accurate way to look at it. Think about a pre-shot routine in golf. It might involve standing behind the ball, picking a specific target, taking exactly 2 deep breaths, stepping up, looking at the hole twice, and swinging. It is a highly specific, repeatable sequence of physical and mental actions.
So it's not just a superstition.
Not at all. When the pressure spikes, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, wants to panic. It wants to drive the car off the cliff into worst-case scenarios.
But the physical routine gives your brain a literal wall to bounce off of.
Yes. The physical sequence keeps the car on the road. You give your brain a familiar, safe, well-worn path to walk down. The routine physically and mentally overrides the panic response.
Wow.
It creates manufactured confidence. You don't actually need to feel brave or confident in that moment. You just need to execute step 1, step 2, step 3. By the time you are actually executing the action, the physical routine has anchored you so firmly in the present moment that those background apps are completely shut down. The bandwidth is clear.
So you build the guardrails during practice so that under pressure, you don't have to rely on willpower at all. You just rely on the architecture you built.
Exactly.
But, I mean, even with the strongest guardrails, the car sometimes hits them too hard. You miss the putt. The board rejects your Q3 strategy. The presentation just completely crashes.
It happens to everyone.
Setbacks are inevitable.
And that brings us to what might be the most counterintuitive part of this entire deep dive. How a person responds when things inevitably go sideways.
The source material is very explicit on this point. The ultimate paradigm shift Elion teaches her clients is that to achieve peak performance, you must embrace growth, prioritize progress over perfection, and crucially cultivate extreme self-compassion.
Here's where it gets really interesting because there is a massive contradiction here with the modern success culture we're all fed.
Oh, totally. The media constantly pushes this, like, take no prisoners, sleep when you're dead, never accept failure mentality.
Yeah.
We assume the greatest champions in the world are ruthlessly hard on themselves. If they mess up, they punish themselves until they get it perfect.
That's the myth.
Right. But Elion is prescribing self-compassion for people whose entire livelihood depends on winning. How does being nice to yourself lead to peak performance? I mean, if I accept failure with a smile, doesn't that just destroy my competitive edge and lead to complacency?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually makes perfect neurobiological sense. We have to go back to the mechanism of the saboteurs we talked about earlier. Peak performance requires cognitive flexibility and a clear bandwidth.
Okay.
If you adopt that ruthless, beat-yourself-up mentality the moment you make a mistake, what are you actually doing to your biology?
You're triggering a massive stress response.
Exactly. Self-criticism and punishing perfectionism actively release cortisol into your system. It triggers a literal fight-or-flight response. Your biological system does not know the difference between missing a putt on the 18th hole and being chased by a physical predator in the woods.
It's all just a threat.
Right. So when you viciously attack yourself for a mistake, your peripheral vision literally and figuratively narrows. Your cognitive flexibility completely shuts down. Your brain reroutes all its energy to basic survival, which means the advanced problem-solving centers of your prefrontal cortex, they go dark.
Wow, so you're actively feeding the fear of failure. By punishing yourself, you're programming your brain to view the task as a life or death threat, which essentially guarantees the background apps will run even harder next time.
Beating yourself up over a lack of perfection does not make you perform better next time. It just makes you more terrified of making another mistake. It creates a brittle mindset.
Brittle mindset.
Yeah. If your entire professional identity is tied up in executing perfectly, the moment you are not perfect, you shatter. True mental resilience is built on the grace to focus on incremental progress.
It's the difference between fragile strength and flexible strength. Like, a skyscraper has to sway in the wind.
That's a great example.
If it's built to be completely rigid and unmoving, a hurricane will just snap it in half. Perfectionism makes you rigid, so when the inevitable setback hits, you break. Self-compassion is the sway. It's the structural flexibility that allows you to say, okay, that pitch was a disaster. Why? What is the data actually telling me? How do I adjust the routine?
That objectivity is the entire point.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is not about letting yourself off the hook or lowering your standards to accept mediocrity. It's about emotional efficiency.
Emotional efficiency.
When you remove the cortisol spike of self-loathing, you keep your problem-solving centers online. It allows you to process the failure objectively, extract the necessary data, and recover from a mistake in 30 seconds instead of 30 days. In high-stakes environments, the sheer speed of your recovery is often the definitive factor in your ultimate success.
Self-compassion is emotional efficiency. That completely reframes the concept from something soft and passive into a highly aggressive tactical advantage.
It really is a weapon.
Let's bring this all back down to earth for you listening right now. Elion's blueprint isn't just locked away in the locker rooms of the PGA Tour or the executive suites of Fortune 500 companies. The human operating system is the exact same regardless of the arena.
Absolutely.
Whether you are an athlete, a business professional, a leader, or just someone chasing personal growth, the mechanics of success remain identical.
The requirements do not change based on your tax bracket or your job title. The pressure might look a little different, but the internal biological response is exactly the same.
First, you have to develop that deep, holistic self-awareness. Look at your personal history and your relationships to find the background apps that are secretly draining your battery.
You have to know what's running.
Right. Second, you have to actively combat those saboteurs by building architectural routines, cognitive guardrails that use tactical mindfulness to snap your prefrontal cortex back online when the panic hits.
Keeps the car on the road.
And finally, when you inevitably stumble, drop the punishing perfectionism. Use self-compassion to halt the cortisol spike, recover your bandwidth quickly, and extract the data you need to keep moving forward. Progress over perfection.
It fundamentally changes how we view achievement, but Elion's emphasis on how deeply our performance is tied to our relationships, our emotional history, and our internal dialogue brings up a pretty fascinating secondary point.
How's that?
The source material forces us to view the human being holistically. This raises an important question. If our ability to succeed is so deeply tethered to our emotional well-being and our understanding of the people around us, is it possible that true peak performance is never actually a solo endeavor?
Oh, that's interesting.
Even in a purely individual sport like golf, or a seemingly solitary task like writing a report at your desk alone, are we really ever performing alone? Or are we always carrying the weight, the history, and the support of our entire relational world with us into every single decision we make?
Wow, that is something to genuinely chew on. It completely changes how we look at the controller in our hands. You aren't just memorizing buttons in a vacuum. You're bringing your whole self, your history, your relationships, your blind spots, and your resilience right into the game. So the next time you step up to a challenge, don't just look at the mechanics of what you are doing. Look at the history of the person doing it. Take these mental strategies, build your cognitive guardrails, give yourself the grace to be emotionally efficient, and go unlock that potential. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Grab Mastering Your Mental Game by Julie Elion, now on sale $215. Don't miss this chance and build good habit and achieve remarkable results. Buy now today.
Like and subscribe for more Bookhaven podcasts.